Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to a new LonsTV. It is Tuesday. I did not do an episode yesterday. It's the first weekday I have missed doing LonsTV since I first started doing this back in November. I'm sorry. I've been a little busier lately. I'm starting to get a little bit more consulting work, so that's taking up a little bit more of my time. And I just haven't had as much time to watch stuff and review stuff. I'm still gonna keep doing LonsTV. I'm not quitting or giving up just because I missed one day. And I actually I was a little sad to log on today and see that no one had brought it up. Some days I'm just late doing it, and then people bug me on Twitter hey, have you done LonsTV, or is there gonna be one today? Or they mention it on Facebook or something. Nothing. Nobody mentioned it yesterday. I think maybe people assumed because it was Martin Luther King Day that I was taking the day off, which I contemplated saying today, I had to honor, Dr. King's memory by not. I also have a dream of not doing a video this Monday, so we're very alike in that way. And I was thinking of, saying something like that, but, that's lame, and it's not true. And I've done, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I mean, come on. I didn't take the day off to honor Santa Claus, so I'm going to take the day off, Anyway, you get what I'm saying. I'm trying to be racist. We all love Dr. King. Anyway, I noticed that the people, seem to sort of roll with it, and it wasn't really a big deal. So I feel like I may in the future now. This is definitely setting a bad precedent, because now the next time I'm feeling lazy and it's 10:30, there isn't this I've never missed a day anymore. Now it's going to be there was that MLK Day that nobody seemed to care because they were all busy, celebrating Martin Luther King Day, which can take, up to 14, 16 hours. Your entire waking day. Enough time that you may not notice there was no LonsTV. Okay, moving on, I did want to talk about something today. It is a film called Just Cause that is on Netflix streaming, and I've been talking about this a lot on my show This Week in Movies, that I'm sort of fascinated by Netflix streaming. They'll put films on there that I would never seek out. I would never go out of my way to rent. I wouldn't really pay money to see, I guess. A lot of them I've seen before, but I sort of half remember them. But now that they're just here on my computer in my living room, anytime I'm bored, it's just I could just find something. And I try, I have a queue, but I don't usually go to the queue. I like to just sort of free associate, go click around and just find stuff that maybe I haven't seen in forever. And this was one of those. That it was just what's Sean? I had seen the Anderson tapes on there a few weeks back, and then it just made me curious what other Sean Connery movies they had on there. And I saw that there was this one that I'm sure I saw. I definitely remember seeing this movie and being aware of this movie, and there's one line, Ed Harris at one point says, "Seek and ye shall find." Right into the camera, all creepy. And I remember back in high school, people quoting that line, when the trailer was out. So it's a legal thriller from the mid-90s, 95. Connery stars as a Harvard law professor, and he's anti-death penalty in a lot of his work. He's written books that are why the death penalty is wrong. And so the movie becomes this murder mystery where he's sort of, a grandmother comes up from Florida and sort of hires him pro bono to come down because her grandson, who's played by Blair Underwood, is in jail for raping and murdering a little white girl, and he says he's innocent and he's on death row. And so Connery goes down to Florida to sort of investigate, was he framed? Is it this crooked local sheriff who's played by Lawrence Fishburne in kind of a fun performance as this is he or isn't he dirty, very cynical Southern lawman. And then there's all sorts of the obligatory twists and turns. It was based on one of those airport legal novels, you could tell. So there's at least 3 or 4 oh, but it's this misdirection kind of scenes, and it works more often than it doesn't. I mean, it's super cheesy, and it's all set in the Florida Everglades, so it's got this Wild Things, which is another movie that was set in this area that likes to play on the kind of sleazy Crocs and swamp and the sun setting over the swamp and everything's sort of infested and dirty and the seedy underbelly of everything. And so it's kind of fun in that way. There are some really weird, just random kind of silly moments. One of them that I loved, the introduction of the Connery character, we first meet him, he's at Harvard, and he's having a debate, an official Harvard debate about the death penalty, and George Plimpton plays his opponent, who's pro-death penalty, and they're debating, and I mean, it's a very, like, boilerplate discussion, like what you'd expect, a generic debate about capital punishment. So Connery's like, well, you know, I don't want to live in a country that kills people. And then you've got, you know, George Plimpton like, well, an eye for an eye is the right way to be. And they're debating, and nobody really says anything that unexpected. And then Plimpton just, like, gives up. He's like, well, you've convinced me. And then they, like, shake hands and smile. And he's like, you win. And it's this whole thing, like, they had to have Connery, like, win. And you wonder, like, did the person who wrote this scene, have they ever seen, like, a debate, like an academic debate, where it's like, there isn't always, like, somebody gives up and then the debate ends. Like, sometimes it's just a debate, and it's just enlightening to see two smart people debate that topic, and you gain a lot by hearing their perspective. But, you know, this seems to think, like, well, the scene has to end, so he has to be like, well, you've convinced me. Like, you know, like, this professor was suddenly, like, shaken out of, anyway. So, you know, there's the obligatory twists and turns. Most of them are pretty good. Ed Harris is definitely, like, the standout. He plays a serial killer who's in jail with Blair Underwood, the man who's accused of this crime, and he may or may not have confessed to the crime himself, so Connery's got to go, like, interview him, and you get this, like, this was only 4 years, I think, after Silence of the Lambs, so everybody was still in that, like, the most intense kind of scenes ever, like, people interviewing serial killers. It was still very much in the zeitgeist, and this movie, obviously, is sort of owes a little something to that, because it's got these scenes of Connery interviewing Ed Harris, who's just playing, I mean, every over-the-top crazy serial killer cliche, like, you know, he, like, draws crazy shit on the walls of his cell, and he, like, yells and howls like an animal, and he's constantly spouting Bible verses. I mean, it's like, he's definitely read the book, like, How to Be, like, an over-the-top movie serial killer, and there's a whole scene where he sends Connery on sort of a wild goose chase to discover bodies that is directly lifted from Silence of the Lambs. It almost exactly happens that way in Silence of the Lambs. And there is, you know, he has a lot of fun, like the Seek and Ye Shall Find and all that kind of stuff. And it's fun to see him just let loose before he was overly concerned with being really respected as a serious actor and was just, like, taking jobs and getting work and being fun in movies. And there is a scene here where he gets the electric chair. He is actually electrocuted during the movie, and it's one of those scenes where, you know, you see him and he's getting the sponge on his head and he's all tied up, and then you cut to another part of the prison and somebody looks up and the light, like, flickers and dims for a second. That's how we know, like, oh, they pulled the thing and it's the chair. But the movie is set in modern times. Does that still happen? You would think that, I mean, I get, like, in the Green Mile, like, yes, the light electricity technology, it was still very new. Like, they were just getting the hang of it. Today, I figure they probably have gotten to the bottom of how to build a circuit so that doesn't happen in a big prison when somebody pulls the switch and electrocutes somebody. But I don't know. I've never been in a prison where somebody's being electrocuted. So just because, you know, I mean, as a review, like, if you like this genre, if you like these sorts of movies, like the legal thriller, especially, like, kind of throwback sort of silly ones, I definitely recommend it. If you want, like, a real meaty, like, thoughtful thriller, this is probably not the one for you. It's very cartoony. It's very over the top. It is kind of fun. I was entertained throughout. So that's LonsTV today. I promise I will be back tomorrow because it's Web Series Wednesday. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in and subscribing and for not hassling and pestering me when I happen to miss one day. I do appreciate it. And I will see you all tomorrow.